Zetsu. Starting at the very bottom, we got Zetsu, the dude that most people don't even remember how he actually died. And honestly, that's exactly why he's sitting dead last on this list. White Zetsu, his original form, got absolutely cooked by Sasuke. First, hit with Amaterasu flames, then finished off with the Susano'o blade right after Sasuke awakened the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Sounds epic on paper, right? But in reality, it was totally underwhelming. No drama, no real emotion, and most fans straight up forgot this even happened. White Zetsu went out like some random mob character, even though he was technically part of Akatsuki. And Black Zetsu, man, his ending was even worse. After Kaguya got sealed, Naruto literally just ripped him off her body and tossed him straight into the Chibaku Tensei. Boom, done. No last words, no iconic moment, nothing. It honestly felt like Kishimoto was like, well, final boss is wrapped up, guess I gotta clean up this guy too. Just throw him in there. You see, both deaths were completely lacking in emotional impact, adding zero weight to the story. White Zetsu died like a background extra, while Black Zetsu, the dude who had been manipulating ninja history for thousands of years, got an ending so ridiculously weak it left people saying, wait, that's it? Yeah, everybody dies. That's what people do. But I gotta say these are two of the most boring deaths in all of Akatsuki.
Now, if you've made it this far, welcome to the amazing world of anime. This is the place for true fans like you, where we celebrate all the magic, action, and emotions anime brings to our lives. You've watched, you've felt the hype, you've been lost in these beautiful fantasy worlds. But, have you hit that subscribe button yet? Right now, almost 90% of you are watching without subscribing. Just imagine, if everyone hits sub, we could build one of the strongest anime communities out there. So go ahead, click that subscribe button right now so you won't miss any new episodes, deep dive breakdowns, or awesome anime content coming your way. Thank you so much.
Kakuzu. Next up, we got Kakuzu. And I gotta be real with you, this is one of the most wasted deaths in all of Akatsuki. Think about it. This is a dude who literally survived every single great ninja war. Someone who actually fought first Hokage Hashirama Senju and lived to tell the tale. On paper, Kakuzu was basically immortal. 5 hearts, all chakra natures, ridiculously durable. But the way he went out? Man, it was absolutely weak, to the point where I was like, that's seriously it? The Akatsuki suppression arc started super promising. Kakuzu showed off insane power, turning into a full-blown monster with those creepy black threads and those terrifying masks blasting out different jutsu. This was the moment you're thinking, oh damn, this guy is legit. But then Naruto rolled in with the Rasen Shuriken for the very first time, and boom, 2 of Kakuzu's hearts got shredded in one single hit. Technically, that was crazy impressive, the first real showcase of Naruto's new power. But it also felt way too quick, way too clean. Then Kakashi showed up, hit him with the Raikiri, and that was it. Kakuzu was dead, just like that. This is a dude who had lived since the Hashirama era, stacked with insane experience, and he went down ridiculously easy. What made it even worse was Kakuzu's last words. He talked about the younger generation surpassing the old, and we got some comments about inheritance. Sounds deep, right? But in reality, it felt completely forced. Because let's be honest, in Naruto's world, Hashirama was still absolutely the top dog even at the very end of the series. Naruto at that point, he was still nowhere near close to inheriting that legacy. So those lines came off super awkward and unearned. In the end, it was just, the new generation beats the old, and then he dies. Totally wasted for a character with that much potential. Hidan. Next up, we got Hidan. And I gotta admit, this dude's death was both super satisfying and absolutely disappointing at the same time. Satisfying because of Shikamaru's insane performance, but disappointing because the way Hidan went out was honestly kinda dumb. Let's talk about Hidan's power first. This guy had literally the craziest ritual in all of Akatsuki. With just a single drop of blood, he could instantly kill anybody. Combine that with his straight-up immortality, powered by his fanatical religious faith, and on paper, Hidan was totally unbeatable. Asuma literally paid with his life just because he didn't know how Hidan's ability worked. Any ninja who went into battle without understanding his ritual was basically guaranteed to die in the dumbest way possible. But here's the thing. Hidan's fatal weakness was his ridiculously low battle IQ. He relied almost entirely on raw power. His big mouth never shut up, always bragging about his ritual and preaching his religion. And that made him the perfect prey for someone calm, patient, and quiet like Shikamaru. Shikamaru was Hidan's complete opposite. Their fight was literally brains versus brutality. Shikamaru took advantage of Hidan's loud mouth, tricked him step by step, and finally lured him straight into a trap. Then he blew Hidan apart with paper bombs, scattering his body into pieces before burying him alive in a deep pit. For Shikamaru, this was a defining moment, the time he avenged his sensei and proved just how intelligent he really was. Fans remember this battle as an absolute masterclass in strategy, and Shikamaru gave Hidan one of the most memorable send-offs in the series. But if we look at it from Hidan's side, he was just a loudmouth who got totally clowned by a smarter kid. Nagato. Now we get to Nagato, and this one is honestly super complicated to rank. The Pain arc is considered the absolute peak of Naruto, and Nagato, as Pain, left an impression that's literally unforgettable. When this guy pulled up, the aura was insane. His Rinnegan power was so overwhelming it made the entire leaf tremble. But when it came to his actual death, something was definitely missing. Let's set the stage first. Nagato died after using the Rinne Tensei to bring back the entire Hidden Leaf Village, a jutsu that burns up every last drop of the user's life force. A lot of fans complained that this move kinda ruined the Pain arc, like, what's the point if people just die and come back? But honestly, I see it differently. Nagato reviving everyone was absolutely proof of Naruto's insane persuasive power. Naruto literally turned a guy who wanted to destroy the whole world into someone willing to sacrifice his life to save others. And that's exactly what makes Naruto so ridiculously great as a protagonist. But the real problem comes with how Nagato's death was actually handled. Nagato used the Rinne Tensei, collapsed, and then we just see his body lying next to Yahiko's from Konan's perspective. That's it. Nothing more. And that's the fatal weakness here. Compare that to the death of Jiraiya Sensei, the man Nagato himself killed. Before Jiraiya died, we got an emotional flashback of his past with the 3 students. We saw that final meaningful smile and his final thoughts about his new novel. We like how he died, full of emotion, meaning, and beautiful closure. Now look at Nagato. He had one solid conversation with Naruto, decided to redeem himself, and then just died off screen. No inner monologue, no flashbacks of Yahiko and Konan, no final regretful look. If we had seen even a single shot of Nagato's last thoughts, or maybe a tear remembering what he lost, his death could have easily been one of the most memorable moments in the entire series. Still, it was definitely a meaningful death. It closed out the redemption arc of a man whose soul had been absolutely twisted by pain and suffering. But emotionally, it just didn't hit hard enough to rank any higher. Konan. Alright, now we're moving on to Konan. And I gotta say straight up, this is honestly one of the cleanest deaths in the whole Akatsuki squad. Konan's death was symbolic and kinda poetic. Her fight with Obito wasn't super long, but man, it was absolutely stacked with quality. Konan came in fully prepped. She literally turned the entire battlefield into a paper trap and even had 600 billion explosive tags ready just to deal with Obito's Kamui. That's insane prep time, bro. She had a real strategy locked in. What made this fight so damn good were the constant twists. Obito thought he clutched it with Kamui, but nah, Konan had a plan B with that massive paper bomb ocean. Then when Obito was literally on the verge of death, he flipped the script with Izanagi. Every time you thought the match was done, another wild reversal. But what really sold this death was the emotion behind it. When Obito finally killed her, we had these powerful flashbacks of the good old days with Nagato and Yahiko, back when they were just kids dreaming about peace. This was Kishimoto flexing his storytelling chops at full power, no joke. And that scene with her blood-soaked paper drifting back to their old hideout, landing right on the board marking her departure? That's a beautiful shot in the series. Like, yeah, realistically a random piece of paper finding its way there is kinda wild, but symbolically, it's perfect. It felt like Konan finally reunited with her 2 closest friends in death. Now, to keep it real, her death had some drawbacks. Konan didn't get enough development across the series, so the emotional impact couldn't hit its absolute peak. I know a lot of us wanted her to play a bigger role in the war arc, but Kishimoto wrapped her story up early. Still, with what we got, this was a seriously beautiful death. Obito. Alright, now we're at Obito. And man, this one's complicated. His death is both emotional and controversial, and I totally get why some of us feel so split about it. Let's hit the positives first. The scene where Obito dies inside Kaguya's dimension is honestly one of the most visually stunning moments in the whole series. Rin's spirit showing up to guide Obito and Kakashi through that insane gravity was symbolic as hell. Friendship, forgiveness, closure, all wrapped in one. And Obito finally gets to reunite with the girl. Straight up poetic. Then there's the moment he sacrifices himself to block an attack for Naruto. That was heart-crushing. Now, Obito wasn't the enemy anymore. He felt like a real brother in arms, fighting for the same goal. His words to Naruto about becoming Hokage was like him passing down the dream he had abandoned ages ago. Yeah, but here's where the problems kick in. Obito was the big bad for a long time, bro. This dude caused endless pain, killed his clan, kicked off the entire Fourth Great Ninja War, pulled the strings of the Akatsuki, and stacked up a body count in the thousands. And then, after just one heartfelt talk with Naruto, he suddenly flips sides completely? It feels way too fast. Like, we get the redemption, but the turnaround was almost unbelievably quick for a guy who'd been drowning in darkness for so long. The problem is how that redemption was shown. Kishimoto honestly felt like he was rushing to wrap things up, so Obito's switch from villain to hero came off way too sudden. Obito goes from, I'm gonna destroy the world, to I'm gonna save the world in what feels like a blink, and that makes it way harder to fully buy into. Still, I can't deny the raw emotional punch of his death scene. It absolutely hit hard. It absolutely carried symbolic weight. It's just that, with a little more setup and time to flesh it out, it could have easily been one of the greatest redemption deaths in all of Naruto. Sasori. Now we got Sasori, and I gotta be real. This is straight up one of the best written deaths in all of Akatsuki. Not because it's flashy or super bloody, but because it hits that deepest core of being human, very subtly. The fight between Sasori and Granny Chiyo was a total visual feast. Watching Sasori flex and control hundreds of puppets at once, from living, almost artistic creations to the terrifying shell of the third Kazekage, you really feel the absolute genius of a puppet master at his peak. This was a deadly art show. Sasori showed exactly why he's called Sasori of the Red Sand, why his name alone made the entire desert straight up tremble. But what really made this death legendary wasn't the fighting. It was that final moment. Sasori literally let himself get stabbed by Chiyo's attack, even though he could have dodged it no problem. And that attack wasn't random either. It came from two special puppets, modeled after his actual parents, the ones he lost when he was just a kid and had always desperately longed to be close to again. That right there was the peak of the whole fight. Sasori, the dude who literally turned his body into wood just to escape pain, chose to die in the arms of his parents. He saw the real bond between Sakura and Chiyo, how they protected each other without hesitation, and that awakened something deep inside his dried-up soul. The real tragedy of this death is how it shows that Sasori never actually lost his humanity. Like, yeah, he turned himself into a puppet to live forever, and he preached hard that true art is eternal. But in the end, he chose a temporary death just to feel family love for even a single second. That was him finally giving in to the emotions he'd been burying for years. Very few characters in all of Naruto literally let themselves get killed just because they were moved by someone else's humanity. Sasori didn't die because he got beaten. He died because he finally accepted that deep craving for connection inside him. And even in death, Sasori kept that straight-up honorable vibe. He handed Sakura info about the meeting with his spy, almost like a reward, a way to repay the genuine emotion she and Granny Chiyo showed him. His death was perfectly symbolic, perfectly meaningful, and perfectly tragic. Itachi. Now we get to Itachi, and honestly, this is the most complicated death to break down in all of Akatsuki. Not because it's the coolest death, but because of how insanely it flipped the entire narrative of the series. At first, Itachi's death felt kinda confusing. The fight with Sasuke was peaking hard. Sasuke was totally drained. Itachi was about to snatch his little bro's eyes. And then boom, he just collapses. Everyone thought he ran out of chakra, but nah. Itachi actually died from his illness, right after completing his final mission. And that last moment, he just smiled and tapped Sasuke's forehead. Iconic as hell. This is where Kishimoto's storytelling went absolutely wild. Up until that point, fans legit thought Itachi was the main villain that had to go down. Dude massacred his whole clan, tortured Sasuke with Tsukuyomi, and looked like he only cared about the Sharingan. Fans were fully rooting for Sasuke's revenge, and yeah, people felt satisfied seeing the villain drop. But here's the twist. This death only hits its real meaning after Obito drops the bomb about Itachi's true story. That's a bold-ass narrative move, letting readers misunderstand a character for so damn long, and then flipping the script completely. Once we learn Itachi's backstory, his death instantly becomes one of the most tragic moments in the whole series. Fans finally realize he was never the real villain. He was a tragic hero who literally sacrificed everything for his little brother and for the village. The impact this has on the story is absolutely undeniable. It didn't just completely flip Sasuke's whole motivation, it straight up redefined Naruto's themes of family and sacrifice. Sasuke gets thrown into the biggest identity crisis of the entire series, and that ripple effect shapes everything that comes after. That's why Itachi's death ranks so damn high. Not because the death scene itself was super flashy or beautiful, but because of the massive narrative weight it carries. This is the kind of death that totally reshaped how readers understood sacrifice, brotherhood, and the crazy price of peace. Kisame. Alright bro, we're at number 1 now, and I gotta split this spot between two legends. First up, Kisa_May. This dude's death is literally the definition of badass in the ninja world. Let's break down the scene. Kisame got cornered by Might Guy and the Konoha squad, about to get captured and tortured for Akatsuki intel. Then, he summoned those sharks to literally eat him alive. Brutal, symbolic, and absolutely hardcore. That wasn't the death of some desperate dude. This was a deliberate choice from a ninja with unshakable principles. He knew the cost and still went through with it, fully committed. What makes this death especially powerful is the motivation behind it. Kisame always wanted a world with no lies, where people could be real about who they are. He believed in Akatsuki's ideals and was totally ready to die for them. This was the real conviction of a man who'd lived way too long in a world full of fake masks and deception. Even at the very end, Kisame thought of Itachi. He felt proud that he went out in a way Itachi would totally respect, holding the secret and dying like a true ninja. Their bond was built on mutual respect, and Kisame wanted to stay worthy of that till his last breath. Kisame's death shows off everything a traditional ninja stands for: loyalty, sacrifice, and honor. He chose that path. That's the death of a man who stayed in control of his fate all the way to the finish. And that's why Kisame has such a massive fanbase. In a world full of betrayal and side-switching, he's the symbol of absolute loyalty. His death was deeply respectable, showing off the soul of a real ninja in an era of chaos. Deidara. And the second dude sharing the number 1 spot? Deidara. If Kisame died like a true old-school ninja, then Deidara went out like a totally obsessed artist, all the way to the bitter end. C0, self-destruct. This was the exact moment Deidara literally turned himself into his final masterpiece. When he realized he couldn't beat Sasuke with his usual tricks, he decided to use his own heart as a massive bomb. That was his ultimate statement about his art philosophy. Art is an explosion. He didn't just say it, he lived by it, and way more importantly, he died by it too. What makes this death super unique is the emotion behind it. Deidara was mad salty from being humiliated by Itachi, and he was insanely frustrated that Sasuke's Sharingan made his art look useless. But instead of giving up, he chose to go out in the most spectacular way possible. That's the ego of an artist. If he can't win, he's at least gonna leave one hell of an impression. The C0 blast created a gigantic glowing sphere you could literally see from kilometers away. The visual impact was absolutely massive, perfectly embodying his whole art is an explosion vibe. Deidara turned his own death into a performance piece, a final statement of what he truly believed in. So now the real question is, who honestly deserves the #1 spot? Kisame with his calm, honorable, ideal-driven death as a traditional ninja? Or Deidara with his flashy, spectacular exit, staying absolutely loyal to his passion till the end? Drop your comments. Team Kisa_May or Team Deidara? I want to see y'all go crazy with the debates. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.